In this video, I show you exactly how you can create an NFT collection 100% in Photoshop with no code needed. Now, one of my biggest videos, the way a lot of y'all was introduced to my channel, was my how to make an NFT collection video in Photoshop. But I had got a lot of questions on there. A lot of people said, hey bro, that was way too fast. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to simplify it, make it way easier and take you step by step. So let's jump right into that process. All right, so we're in Photoshop right now. And before we jump into Photoshop, I kind of want to address one of the common questions that I got in the last video and address it at the beginning. All right, so what I'm about to show you, you can generate as many files as number one, your computer's hardware and memory will allow you to do, and number two, as many combinations as you can make, right? And the reason I say that is because the most common number for some reason is everybody wants to mint 10,000, right? Everybody wants to create a collection of 10,000, right? But I'm gonna break down the formula that you need to take into consideration as far as how many traits for each layer that you're gonna need, right? So what I'm reading is this formula means that the number of NFTs that you can make is equal to the number of traits to the power of your layer of numbers. So if your base character has 4 layers and you want to make 10,000 unique NFTs, you will need 10 traits in each layer because 10 to the 4th power is 10,000, right? They want to also note that 10 to the 4th power is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, all right? So for example, if you had 7 traits for the background layer, right? 8 traits for like the face layer, 12 traits for the eyes layer, and 15 traits for the hat layer, then you would essentially multiply those all together, 7 times 8 times 12 times 10, and then boom, you would come out to 10,080 NFTs, right? You would essentially, if you wanted to, get rid of those extra 80 items, right? But that's one thing I wanted to address at the beginning of this video. Now, let's hop into Photoshop and I'm gonna show you once again step by step, and I'm gonna go a little slower and explain a little more how I'm gonna do these backgrounds. I'm probably even gonna make the backgrounds in Photoshop and make probably every element inside of Photoshop so you can see exactly how it's done, all right? So if you don't have Photoshop, you could buy Photoshop by itself for $33 a month. I'd recommend you get the whole Creative Cloud suite. It's gonna be $79.99 a month. If you're a student, I believe that's lower, but you get everything that's in the Creative Suite, which I think you should do. Now, after you get Photoshop and you open Photoshop, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go to new file. This new document screen is gonna come up. You got pixels, inches, centimeters, all that. That's relevant if you're printing this stuff. It's not, so we're gonna leave it at pixels, and I'm gonna do 1,000 by 1,000 pixels, which isn't really that big. The first thing we're gonna create is gonna be our background layers, right? The very first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna bring your mouse. You're gonna come down here to this plus symbol looking thing, and it's gonna tell you create a new layer. You're gonna select that, right? And you're gonna double click where it says layer 1 and name that BG1. That's my background, okay? All right, how am I gonna fill this background? Any design program works on a layer system, right? This is layers. So when I toggle this eye right here for the background on and off, you see this kind of checker pattern, which always represents clear, transparent pixels. That means there's nothing there, right? So let me turn this off, and then let me show you real quick. See, I'm writing on this layer. I'm dragging this brush on this layer, right? So you see over here, it kind of shows me what I just did. If I toggle that on and off, then that's off, but we're gonna Control Z completely out of there. All right, so that's pretty much just a brief breakdown of how layers are gonna work and how all these different layers are gonna play a factor for you, all right? So first, your background, you're gonna come over here. You're gonna come over here to where you kind of see this gradient tool. If you don't see this, then you're gonna see the paint bucket tool, which is what we actually want, right? And this paint bucket tool, pretty much on that new layer, fills it in. Now, this is something I want you to pay attention to. If you're on the background, if you select the background and hit fill, you're gonna fill the background, okay? So let's go ahead and go back to the background layer 1. We don't want a dull color like black, so we're gonna come down here to the bottom and we're gonna select. This is gonna bring up a color picker, and I'm just gonna go up here, toggle this, and I want like a bright red, all right, for my first background. So my first background is gonna be red, okay? Now, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna come down here again to create a new layer. I'm gonna create a new layer. This layer is on top of this layer, right? And I'm gonna show y'all something else. Let's say I want green for this layer, okay? I'm gonna go ahead with this tool still selected, with that in green, I'm gonna fill that with green, okay? So you see over here, let me double click this and name it background 2. But as you see over here, bro, this layer is on top of this layer. Now, what happens with layers, you can drag them and drop them on top of each other. So if I wanted to, I could put this layer on top of this layer by just dragging and dropping, but I don't want to do that. I was just showing you how layers work, right? So we're gonna do a third layer. I'm gonna do 3 traits per, for the sake of this video, okay? This one I want to be purple, right? Okay, so boom, I got 3 backgrounds, right? You could do as many backgrounds as you want. I'm doing 3. So once I have my 3 backgrounds, I just come here, I hold Command or Control if you're on a Mac, right? Select this one. I'm gonna select all 3, right? Then I'm gonna hit Command G or Control G if you're on a Windows, and that's gonna make that into one group. You're gonna call that group background. Why is this important? Because stick along to the end of this video. We're gonna use a script that's really easy to use in Photoshop. It doesn't require you to know any code. You just literally load the script and it's gonna generate the collection, but you have to set it up properly, right? So next, let's start a new layer, right? We need to do our base figure, right? We're gonna call this base 1, okay? And this layer, I'm gonna come down here. I'm just gonna make a shape, right? It's gonna be an ellipse, which is just a circle. Do a rectangle, triangle, polygon, custom shape, whatever. So this first figure is, I'm gonna do a circle, right? To control the properties of the circle that I'm about to draw, because, okay, when I draw this circle, it's just gonna give me this black line, and you can't see it because these layers are on, but it's really filled in, right? It's filled in with purple, and I don't want that, right? I want something maybe orange or something like that, okay? So if you hit the letter U, then it's gonna bring up the editing properties for that shape again, right? So I'm gonna come over here. This means to turn it off. I could change the color of this stroke if I wanted a stroke, right? I could change it to yellow, and I could even change the thickness, right? I could change it to where, where it's really visible, or, or it's thin, right? But I don't want a stroke for this circle. I just want, no stroke. And then for this, I kind of want like an orange or something. I'm gonna have to find, there's an orange, okay? Boom. So that's my first base figure, okay? Now we're gonna get a little complex on the trick, right? Because I'm gonna do another one like this, right? And so here's another trick I'm gonna teach y'all, right? You could either right click this, right click a layer and hit duplicate the layer, right? And when you duplicate the layer, it's gonna ask you like, hey, where do you want it at? Do you want to duplicate it in this document? You could duplicate it in a whole nother document if you have one open. But yeah, I'm just gonna duplicate it right on top of it, right? And I'm gonna come over here and name it base 2. But what I'm gonna do differently with this one and kind of make it a little more rare, if you want to say, right, is I'm gonna double click in this space on the layer, right? Where the cursor is, you double click, layer styles will come up. I'm gonna come down here to gradient overlay and see what you see is done is it's added a little gradient to it, right? But I don't want that gradient, although it does look nice. I kind of want something orange. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I don't know why I like that so much. I just always have, right? You can switch the style, right? But I want it to be radial. I kind of want that like almost 3D ball effect, right? To give it some life, right? Okay. So that's base 2, right? And then I'm gonna make a new shape. I'm gonna come over here again, and just to add more rarity, and I'm gonna hide this layer so that I can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna do a custom shape, and I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna do the triangle tool, right? And maybe the triangle will be rare as well. And I'm gonna center that. And if you just open Photoshop and you haven't messed with anything, then it's gonna kind of guide you as you see that line as far as like where the center is. So I'm gonna kind of put that into the center, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna hit U, and I'm gonna take off that. And actually, I think I'm gonna do a yellow triangle, right? And then, so now I have my 3 base figures, base 3, okay? So then I'm gonna just do the same process. You can either select one of these, skip one as long as they're in a row, and hit shift and select the other one, and then hit command or control G, and then group those. And then that's gonna be called base figure. Now that we have our base figures, we have to give it maybe some eyes, right? So let's name these eyes 1. Okay, and to create eyes, let me put one of my base figures back so I can kind of use that as a guide on where I'm gonna place the eyes. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the ellipse tool, and what I'm gonna do, instead of letting it make that shape, make that style we don't want with the fill, I'm gonna go ahead and pre-do it. Okay, so I'm gonna maybe leave the stroke and make this white to kind of give me an eye, right? So you know what, we ain't gonna make them like that, we're gonna make it like that. We're gonna increase that stroke a little bit, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna either right click and hit duplicate layer, or I'm gonna hit Control or Command J to duplicate that layer, right? And then drag it over here. And if you hold shift, it'll leave it like proportion. You know, if you drag it without shift, then you risk, you know, knocking it off balance. But if you hold shift, then no matter if you know, it's gonna stay aligned basically. So I'm not done with these eyes yet. I'm gonna make another ellipse, but this time I want it to be just a black dot to represent, I guess you call that the pupil. But anyway, I wanna clarify this. If I would have done that while I had this selected, it would have affected that. So what you got to do, if you're gonna make a new shape that you don't want to affect that shape, is click off of this layer. So I just clicked on this group, came over here, and made a pupil, right? The only problem is that since I had that group selected, it made it in that group, which is behind these other layers. So when I drag it up, now it's in front, right? So I'm gonna Command J again to duplicate that, right? And now, boom, I have one set of eyes. So I know you're like, bro, how are you gonna make that work? Because now each element of this eye is its own layer, right? So you can combine those, right? So I have this one selected. I'm gonna go down and select this one while I have shift held, which is gonna select all of them. I'm gonna right click in there and I'm gonna convert that to a smart object, right? And I can go further into depth actually as far as what a smart object is, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm not gonna do that. So you're gonna name this eyes and maybe eyes 1, okay? And then let's say for the sake of this tutorial, I want another set of eyes. I Command J, hit eyes, and then hit eyes 2, okay? Now you're like, bro, those are the same exact eyes, and they are. So I'm gonna invert the color on them, and how I'm gonna do that is hitting Command I. And what that's gonna do is change them to, you know, it's basically gonna invert the color. And you see here, I can toggle that on and off as long as it's a smart object. So I have 2 sets of eyes, right? So I'm gonna hit both of these. I'm gonna hit this layer, hit shift, Command G, and do eyes, right? Because I'm only gonna do 1 set of eyes. So I'm aware that these don't necessarily match up with the triangle, right? But what I could do is either go in, right? And this is another trick. As long as you don't have auto select turned on, which I always go turn off, you can go in this group where if you can basically go bring your cursor over a layer that you're trying to grab, double click in that space or right click in that space, and it's gonna bring up these. So I know that this is base 3, which is the last one that I did, which is the triangle. So now it has that selected. I'm gonna hit Command T to make that bigger, right? And then here's another trick. If you hold Option, then you can drag it and it's gonna scale it in its entirety, right? So that still kind of looks weird, but it's better than what we had, right? All right, so now the last thing we're missing as far as for these, that one's not bad, but now the last thing we have missing is maybe a smile. Okay, we can add a smile. Okay, so we're gonna come down here, same thing, do create a layer, right? And we're gonna use the pen tool to draw a smile. The pen tool is usually used to like crop people out of a photo. You know, if you want to get their whole body out of a photo, you would use the pen tool, but you can also use this to draw in a way, right? And use shapes. So if you come up here, when you have the pen tool selected, it's gonna have path selected and you're gonna hit shape, all right? So same principle. We don't want necessarily a fill, we just want a stroke, right? So we're gonna do a stroke, which is gonna be black, and then we're gonna do a smile, and we're gonna just click here to select one point, and then click here to select another point. But when you click, don't let go. Drag that cursor upward to straighten that smile out, right? And then select off of it, and then boom, you see you have a smile. But I wanna make that smile a little bit more defined. So I'm gonna go ahead and select you so I can edit again, and then bring that stroke up, okay? So now that's what we have, right? That's one smile. All right, so we're gonna call that smile, or just mouth one, because they're not all gonna be smiles, right? Then we're gonna duplicate that, right? Which is Command J, and we're gonna rename that mouth 2. And remember, we do that by just simply double clicking the name, and then you get editability. So that's how you do that, right? So what you're gonna do now, right? What I'm gonna show you how to do now is to turn this to a frown. Let's say we want this to be a frown. So with that one selected, you're gonna go Command T, right? And then there's two ways you could do this. You could come up to the corner, select Shift, and then drag it down to a frown. Or you could right click and flip vertical and do it like that, right? So that's the two mouths, right? Now, I'm 100% aware that once again, these are both probably gonna hang off this triangle. Well, no, it won't. It's gonna it's gonna look good on everybody. So that's pretty much the process with the mouths. We built the mouths. We're gonna go ahead and Command G to group those and call it mouths, right? So now we have, you know, pretty much 4 traits, 4 variables, all right? Now, here's where the generation part starts. This is where the fun begins. All right, now, I'm not sure if I didn't go over it correctly in the last video, so I'm gonna go slower right here, right? So what I'm gonna do is, when you're gonna come to this, website, right? GitHub is where a lot of scripts live. And the beauty of this is, like, right, in the title of this video, I said this was done with no code. Somebody's done the code for us. We just have to go in, load the script, and let the programs and the developers who made this do their thing, right? So I wish there was a way to donate to these people, bro. But anyway, you come here to code, you hit the drop down, you hit download zip. All right, now I'm gonna go here to documents, I'm gonna do new folder, and I'm gonna do NFT script, right? And then I'm gonna save that. Now it's very simple, okay? See the example of the preview, download and unzip, open your project and navigate to file, scripts, browse, and then load the downloaded JX file, right? So use the prefix __ for top level group names to exclude groups from the composition process, right? So you would do this for stuff like, hey, ignore this group, or, you know, if you were kind of doing different ones, right? But in this one, we're not going to worry about that, right? Now, it is important. You see here that he has each of these kind of in folders, in groups. That's why I told you to kind of do it like that, right? So we're going to go through here and do the same thing. I'm going to make sure all my layers are turned on. You know what? I'm going to add some, before I do that, I'm going add some flair to these backgrounds, right? Let's do gradients. Let's do gradients on all of them. Make it look a little better, right? Right, and once again, you do that by double clicking that area, going over here to gradient overlay and clicking all of this and just finding out which one you want to use. I just want to make that stuff look a little better. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm still a graphic designer at heart. Like, that wasn't looking too good to me. But anyway, that's a little better, all right? So I just updated my backgrounds a little bit, but now we're gonna go, so I'm gonna, all right, so now you're gonna come here to File, Scripts, Browse, okay? Then I'm gonna go here to Documents, NFT Script, Composer Master, hit that, open, 36 combinations found. Would you like to continue? Yes. Okay, now it's asking where are you gonna save these, right? I'm gonna save these in that same folder and name it bruh. Okay. No, don't add the corresponding PSD documents. Let's just go ahead and let the script run. All right, so these outputted pretty quick, but this is just to show you how this script is possible. You know, this script can do what you need it to do as far as generating a collection in Photoshop, right? So I hope that was a little bit easier for you. Let me know in the comments if you have any trouble, man. I love y'all. Let's get it. Hey, man, thank you so much for watching. If you like the content on my channel, I want to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you're interested in learning how to acquire limited items, join my Discord. Not only do we share the information in there, but we also raffle off items, do giveaways, and all type of lit stuff. So join me in that Discord. Also, follow me on all my socials. I love y'all, man. Let's get it.